Parkersburg, in all places, and moved to Atlanta. I grew up in Atlanta. It was a great city. I have not been back since I was 18 years old. The place is just so big. It's such a big city, and I moved to the University of Alabama. Roll Tide. Thank you. In 2008, I did marry an Auburn fan. So, can you believe that? I went to Alabama. I say we joke because he lived in Auburn. He went to Southern Union before he ended up in Afghanistan. But it took all of that for us to meet in Nashville, Tennessee, when we were probably right around the corner from each other for years and years and years. So again, God just works in the most craziest of ways. But my journey started, in the weather when I was probably in the 5th grade and then again in the 7th grade. Most parents send their kids to, summer camps that you go to the lake, you spend time with friends. No, mine was like, you know what, space camp. That's it, we're gonna send you to space camp. So I went to space camp in Huntsville for a week in the 7th grade. And guys, it changed my whole life. It changed the trajectory of what I wanted to do, where I was gonna be. I think at one point in my life, I wanted to be a pediatric physical therapist. I don't know. I have no idea why. But after that space camp, I said, you know what? I love the weather and I really like science. And so I was also the girl who also got in trouble all the time for talking. I know you're shocked. Everybody is. I got written up all the time. My mom and dad, we're just like, she's young, she likes talking, she's friendly, like just let her be her. And honestly, it pays the bills now, Things worked out. So in 7th grade and then in 8th grade, I started hosting our morning announcements in middle school. And so that's when I realized, I can talk. I can talk in front of people. And then in high school, I was the vice president of my high school and hosted the pep rallies in front of 3,000 of your peers, which is way harder to do. Talking in front of people that you know versus people you don't know, and then showing up the next day at school. But it really taught me how to interact and chat with people and be open and be friendly and always be a warm, welcoming face. And that's kind of what I've based my career on. I've always wanted to be that person that you saw on the other end of the TV who felt like, you know what? I can come up and say hi to her in Kroger. I can come up and say hi to her in Publix or Winn-Dixie or Walmart or wherever you may be. Stop her in the street. And a lot of you do, and I love it. Don't ever stop, okay? Because when you do stop, it means I'm doing something wrong. So in high school, I wanted to be able to do science and, of course, TV. So I thought, well, I'm just gonna go to the University of Tennessee, because that's where my mom went. And I was gonna be just like her. I was gonna do that. It was where my whole family went. Again, they're from small town Tennessee. Everybody went to the University of Tennessee. That is just what happened in my family. I grew up in Georgia as a Tennessee Vol, constantly wearing UT stuff to my school, and I was just the obnoxious Tennessee fan. Well, then all of a sudden, this wonderful lady from the University of Alabama showed up to my high school, and they do, recruitment visits or whatever. Mind you, I was not the smartest gal in the bunch, but I did a lot of extracurricular activities, so that's kind of what got me into college. And we were talking, and she's like, we have a wonderful program, we have a great geography program, we have a great television program, we think you would like it here. So she set up a visit for my dad and I, and after the visit, she came up to me and she said, one day, you're gonna be Miss Alabama. And while I got it, I believed her. I thought, you know what, I am gonna be Miss Alabama one day. I've never done a pageant in my entire life. I do not know the first thing about that, but I believed her. And I was sold. I said, all right, sign me up. So went to the University of Alabama, and then I went to Mississippi State. All the while, I can't hear anybody. I'm starting to realize I'm missing everything and any. I'm in the back, I'm not hearing. I've been reading lips my entire life, and I don't think I really understood that. It wasn't until grad school, my friends figured out that I could not hear out of my left ear. So they would all sit on my right, and they would tap me to get my attention. Anybody else relate? Anybody? Anybody have hearing loss? Okay, yep. And so fast forward to my first job at ABC 3340, where I worked with, I don't know if you guys know him. Do you guys know, what's his name? Man, James Spann. Yeah, I don't know. So funny enough, I interned with him when I was in college, in my senior year of college, right after the tornadoes. And that was a pivotal moment in my life. I'm sure it was a place, you know, if you lived in Alabama that day, you knew exactly what was going on, right? And so he's always been someone that I've looked up to. And then when he hired me in 2014, it was my first full-time job. I was green as grass. I didn't know what was up or down or left or right. I was just smiling, ready to go, ready to learn. And while I was there, the first thing you have to do is get a ear mold made called an IFB. So that's how our producers, our directors, all can talk to us, tell us, hey Megan, you're talking way too long, you need to stop. You need to stop, you've got 30 seconds, we gotta get to break, hurry up, you know? And so that's the way that they can communicate with us. So I went to, in Vestavia, this little place called Belltone. It's an audiologist office, it's a hearing aid place, but they also make these molds. And so I had the mold made, and while I'm sitting there, I told the audiologist, I said, hey, I don't hear well out of my left ear. However, just make the mold for my right one. He said, okay, no problem, but it's interesting that you don't hear out of your left ear. Have you ever had your ears tested? And I said, no. My dad's hard of hearing, and he's been hard of hearing his entire life, so this is just something I think is normal. I thought being hard of hearing was just a part of life. Like, I just thought that was what was gonna happen. I was gonna lose my hearing like my dad has. And so he puts me in this corner, and I know this was on purpose. I was sitting in the corner, him and another coworker of mine were chatting. They turned me around when the mold was done, and they said, Megan, we yelled. We were yelling your name. We were trying to get you to turn around, and you did not flinch. I said, so I told you I don't hear out of my left ear very well. And he said, we'll come back and we'll do an audiologist test. And I said, sir, I don't know how much money you think I'm making, but I just finished grad school and I'm eating frozen tilapia and asparagus for dinner. He said, the appointment's $80. I was like, I'm not spending $80 on an appointment. I'll just do without. He said, listen, no, this is something I think you really need to look into. And I said, okay. So he said, don't worry about it. I really just want to do this for my own benefit to see like where your ears are at. So I said, okay. So I show up, come to find out, I have profound hearing loss in my left ear and severe hearing loss in my right ear. So I miss about 70% of my left ear, and I miss about 30 to 40% of what's being said in my right ear. So if I'm not looking at you, I still really have a hard time understanding you, even though I do have hearing aids on at all times. Sometimes I do take them out when I don't want to hear my husband, but don't tell him. And I sleep really hard because I can't hear anything else. But in all seriousness, he said, you really need a pair of hearing aids. And I said, well, I don't know if you missed, but I can't afford the $80 appointment. How much are hearing aids? He said $2,500 to $5,000. I said, wow, all right. First off, I'm 24. If I had $5,000 extra dollars, I would be spending it irresponsibly on a handbag, not on a pair of hearing aids. I'd go to the Turks and Caicos. No, I can't do that. I'm not gonna do that. And he was like, you really need to start thinking about it. So I said, I'm gonna think about it, but I'm not gonna go anywhere. And so called my parents. My dad and mom still kick themselves to this day because my dad is so hard of hearing. He takes his hearing aids out. He cannot hear a fire alarm go off. So they kicked themselves for not getting me the help that I needed sooner. I just utilized everything my dad had growing up. So he wore headphones to listen to the TV, so I wore headphones to listen to the TV. My mom talks so loud, at a whole nother decibel. And so she's always talked very loud and pronounced her words and articulated very, very well. And